quick. We're learning how to use it now. Self-help songwriter. It's hard to be human, but songs can help you heal yourself. Self-help songwriter.
Mel Lathouras, thank you so much for being here, fearless singer.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. I think I've wanted to be on your podcast for as long as I've known you and seen your podcast. So it's finally happened. It's
finally happening. I'm so glad we can make this work. You're all the way in Australia.
Yes, Brisbane, West End.
Such just the best accent. I love it so much.
It's so funny, and you know, the more I'm with people with other accents, my accent gets stronger.
Love that. I feel the same way. Like living abroad, I've become more American. I'm really like biting into it more, like a little bit. I know what you mean.
I lived in the UK for a while, and my parents were really disappointed that I didn't come back sounding like a BBC news reporter. They're like, aren't you supposed to have some kind of... No, I was like, no, I refused. Don't get me wrong, I love the British accent. I love, playing with the accent, but yeah, no, I love my own as well.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So we just listened to your incredible mantra song. I am obsessed, and this is why, I'm so excited to have you on. I was saying before we hit record how you're like kind of the perfect guest in a way for the self-help songwriter podcast. I mean, it couldn't be more perfect because you marry the two, and more than that, also your focus on singing and expression. So you also have like another flavor and another angle to come at this conversation with, which I'm just so excited about. But can you tell us more? So like on this podcast, normally we like break down the song line by line. We don't have to do that if you don't want to. We can just tell me about the song and like what inspired it and the history behind it.
Yeah, it started, so I wrote it last year, and it was the new year, and I thought I probably was inspired by you, actually, self-help songwriter. Come to think of it, I was like, maybe I need to write myself a self-help song. It was really to bring in, the things that I wanted to happen for the year, and I'm borrowing because I'm a gigging jazz singer. I was just telling you before, like I've only just now sort of ventured off, and I sing soul, a bit of country and blues, but mostly get booked as a jazz singer. However, I started off in punk bands when I was in my early 20s, and not like more sort of garage punk. So really loved the 60s psychedelia and love the Ramones, love Patti Smith, and so that song actually is more of a kind of a nod to those days where I felt like I was way more wild and fun and expressive and funny, and and I wanted to bring more of that energy in because I felt like, and it was on the back end of COVID lockdowns and stuff. So I just felt like life was getting a little bit humdrum and a bit too fucking serious. So it was my way of going, no, bring back that girl, that I used to love. Just, get up on stage in my 20s and thought I was so rough. I'd wear my little Sergeant Pepper's jacket, and I'd pretend that I draw like a little tear, tattoo on my heart. Like,
love it.
It was just insane. And
the whole nine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then I'd just I'd just go crazy. Like I'd just go wild. And and it was one of the most exhilarating times of, my young adult life. And I guess just somewhere along the way, you start to lose a bit of that. You're just trying really hard to do all the right things. And then suddenly, it was just a song about reclamation, coming back to that spark, and also stepping into a different dimension into like sovereignty. So I even say in one of the lines, reclaiming that sovereignty, reclaiming community. So being part of a bigger picture, And that was seriously everything that I sang about in that song came to being, and really started to just honor myself as a woman and a musician and a singer, and starting to recognize my worth and my value as well, because for many years I was just always seeking validation, always. And then it came to a point, I think it was actually end of last year, where I was like, what? I just, I started to become curious, like, why am I asking for that validation? Just why are you seeking that approval from that particular person? Why do you need that? Can you give that to yourself? So it was really a whole year of undoing all those old habits, learnt behaviors, and it was, yeah, an opening up of, who I really am, which is super creative, loving, magic, and one of the lines is, I'm fucking magic, baby, yes I am. And then it goes, you're fucking magic, baby, yes you are. So it's about, we're all fucking magic. Yeah, so that was that song. And it's cute. It's like, at the time it was like this little throwaway. I made a Canva video for it, music video.
Which is so fucking good. That is going in the show notes. And right now, go listen to it. Listen to the song again. Watch this video. It is insane. I will also mention that in the intro too, that people have to go watch that, because that is, I'm obsessed with it. And you have to teach me how do you use Canva in that?
I can so do. And I did
using?
little, like just stories on Insta, and then I saved the video, and then put a filter on it, and then whacked it up in the video. But what was really funny is, at the end of last year, Yas Queen, which is my all-femme jazz band, we got booked for this really quite a high-flying corporate gig, but it was for female identifying architects. And
cool.
yeah, so and my co-star, co-singer, Tennille, she was the contact, for this particular, and she'd sent off our promo, and they were like, oh, this music, this video clip that you've got is amazing. And Tennille's like, oh, that's weird, because we don't really have much in the way of that. And they're like, oh my God, this song is actually perfect for our event. Like, just bear in mind, like, they booked us as a jazz band, and then Tennille's like, oh, just out of interest, what video is it that you're referring to? And they sent them the link, and it was this song. And Tennille had to go, oh, actually, that's actually really not. That's not Yas Queen. That's Mel. Mel Lathouras. You've accidentally stumbled on her stuff, and yeah. So that was like at a corporate architects conference. So there's a lesson in that, you think that this is just some silly kind of throwaway thing that could be something completely different for someone else.
100%. Exactly. You never know what seeds you're planting. And that's why it's so crucial to just do and make and put it out there and post and take your silly things seriously. And it can be silly. Serious things don't have to be serious. Serious things can be silly. You can be serious about your silliness.
Absolutely.
And we should be. And that is just such a beautiful story. I'm just like so beyond inspired right now. I don't, if you could take an auric picture and just be like on fire, like so inspired. I love that. And you're right. There is such a lesson in that.
And I think too, it always comes back to, and this is what I teach in the coaching capacity, is that whatever we put out, it's always got like little coded bits of frequency that we've transmitted. So it's like, it's all intention. You can sing a really sad song, but if your intention is to heal, or or put out healing vibes, or you're putting a message through it, you could actually be empowering people in the audience, even though it's a particularly minor key, dark lyrics. But if your intention is no, but I want people to really feel into this, and and that's what I mean, we there's no way of really qualifying that, but I believe that's what we do. So my intention was to uplift, and then somebody read that, someone unexpected, an architect.
Incredible. I just blacked out. That was so good. That was perfect words. I'm obsessed. That was just so good. That was one of those out of body moments where I was like, wow, just perfect things she's saying. Yes, exactly. Intention is everything. And I love that, because I think, especially as musicians, where it's energy work, right? It's not just, and I talk about this all the time, how it's like songs are spells. I mean, words are spells too. That's why we spell words.
Yes.
But this, especially with music, because it is a strong vibration, and it's coming from, our whole body, and it can really reverberate in a really strong way, and it creates this resonance, that the intention that we have when we're creating that is so important. And it really actually does affect, or I like to believe that it really, and it seems to be also, just in my anecdotal, data collection, I think it makes a huge difference in the outcome, or the result, so to speak, of the music, and of like the experience that will lead you into, and just the dance with the universe that you're doing, that the intention is, magnetizing that. But can you say more?
So true.
Say more about, how do you do this with your clients? Because you've now, and also say, because I'm sure that you would have so much interesting things to say about how you transitioned from singing teacher into this, like, more motivational, like a developmental, like self-healing coach, and how natural that is. Because to me, it's so obvious that that's where that would go. So
So when I was finishing up uni, I came up with the idea of Fearless Singer, because at the time, look, not to dwell, I don't want to dwell too much in this space, because, it's all an illusion. It's all part of the story. And it's all part of, evolving and learning. But, and it's still the case in some ways that, the music industry, particularly in jazz, and particularly where I am, it is quite male heavy. And it's also not just that, but I would even say it's very hierarchical, patriarchal. So it's like this idea of, you've got to practice every day. You've got to, like, for 3 or 4 hours, and, that real hard energy. And, I've never really subscribed to that. I tried it. It just doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for most people, men or women, or, non-binary.
totally.
Yeah, or maybe it does, but it just, in the end, you're going to burn yourself out. So I thought, okay, and also too, singers, particularly in the jazz space, get a really hard time. And like,
don't get me started in jazz. Like,
I know, just like in terms of, you feel like you have to be doing more than what you do. You have to learn the piano, you have to be playing guitar, or you have to be well and truly all over theory, jazz theory. There's this feeling of you have to be more better. You have to be scatting, and I don't subscribe to that either, because I think some of the best musicians in the world can't even read a note.
Exactly.
However,
Exactly.
they are the best. They're so connected to their heart space, and they're the most brilliant communicators, through song, and they're my people.
Exactly.
So I didn't agree with that, and I thought, okay, I want to create like a space, an online space for singers, so to come to feel empowered. And I was going to just, at the time, just share more about my own experiences and that kind of thing. But being at the end, of my degree, and I did do vocal pedagogy, which, allows you to go and teach singing, and I ended up doing teaching, my master's, not master's, grad dip in education. That, well, I should just turn Fearless Singer into a singing studio. And so I kind of always was a life coach, and I've always loved business. So I've always been doing it, but, with singing lessons. However, and I think a lot of singing teachers would probably are life coaching. Do you know what I mean? They are
Right,
doing that work,
exactly.
or
Right.
they are they have different healing modalities that they bring in, whether it's in energy work, so Reiki or that kind of thing. And I think the transition for me was really about owning what I do and who I am, and not being embarrassed about it.
Mm,
Like, because of being in that singing, particularly in the vocal science world, it's all very much about, academia. And so it was like a little bit of getting over that fear of being rejected by, your colleagues, because you're doing something slightly different and out of field. And as well too, like singing teachers also are, and music teachers are undervalued by society as well. That's the other thing too. And yet and people tend to they'll just do one or two singing lessons, and then that's it. Like, it's or they won't turn up to their sessions. Or so my whole thing was like about, okay, well, how do I overcome that? How do I so one The first step was, okay, I need to own what I do, and then teach from that space, so coach from that space. Two, I need to also honor what I do and value what I do, so I have to change the narrative for myself. And I use emotional freedom technique tapping to overcome all those fears around imposter syndrome, and worrying about what other people think. And so I did a lot of work on that. And the other thing was, how do I go back to the initial idea, what Fearless Thing was about? And it was really about community, which, funny enough, I sang about in that song that I wrote last year, like, embracing community. And that's where I've moved into more of that coaching space. And also now I have a membership. So there's a Fearless Singer membership, which I launched at the beginning of the year. So I've got 17 people in the membership, and it is very
amazing.
much, just about that coaching. I do like so I won't be doing this anymore, but I was just doing some singing lessons here and there throughout that. But I think, most people, when they come, they go, oh, you're gonna make me be great, aren't you? Like, well, not that you're gonna make me, but you've got high expectations for me. So, and I think that most people do feel that from me. Like, I see people's greatness. I think this is all coaches, and you
Yeah.
like, right, okay, well, I'm here to help you get to that point. And so I think moving forward, I've got my Fearless Singer membership, but I'll be offering more in the way of courses, and just to keep
Awesome.
growing that community.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And I
great.
do get, and I get a lot of different people. I get people that come in with real genuine fears around singing, and that fear of visibility. So yeah, a lot of the work is around that. We do a
Huge.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
That's why I'm
energy work
also,
around that.
yeah, so excited to have you on the podcast, because I know that there's so many people listening that is true for, that they have maybe even they know they sound good, and they know they have a good voice, and they can sing, and they know they can sing, and that's not the problem. The problem
No.
is the anxiety and the shame, and not wanting people to look at you, and just like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, that feeling of like, everyone is looking at me, that means that I'm about to be like expelled from the tribe, this like,
Yeah,
it's like such
absolutely.
a base fear. And I remember that from my early days of performing, especially my own songs. It was not fun. I really only, just because I had to mentally decide to overcome it, but otherwise it was a decision. And I feel like if you don't really decide that, if you're like just going based on how you're feeling, absolutely, I can understand why most people would run in the opposite direction from that forever. So can you say, like, how do you work with people through this, and like how
Yeah,
in your
yeah, that's
membership and in your coaching and stuff?
yeah. I'll just give you also some examples. So, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they're okay if I won't say names, but so I have oh, actually, I will say names because I've just interviewed one of them
Oh,
for
perfect.
the podcast. So
Yes.
I have a podcast too, so Fearless Singer.
Yes.
And so I interviewed Emma Sparks. So she came to me at the end of last year. And this is the thing, you just said, like, most people, like, they've got these beautiful voices. It's like, no one who's walked through these doors haven't been able to sing. Everyone has got the most incredible instruments, and you're like, oh my God. But yeah, it's because of the anxiety and like you said, the stories around shame. They, had an adult or a young person in their
Yeah.
past tell them to shut up, or that they're not worthy, or with Emma, her fear was all around looking stupid. And a lot of that came from being the youngest member of the family, and she had much older siblings, and so she didn't like this idea of looking silly in front of people, and so that story perpetuated. But she's always had this desire to sing because she's been given this incredible gift. Like, when you hear her voice, because eventually I hope you hear all my Fearless Sing members singing in these platforms.
Yes.
She's beautiful. She sounds exactly like Julie London. It's just stunning. And she's obsessed with Julie London.
Wow.
So she's gone from literally dry retching vomiting to she did her first ever performance at the Fearless Singer Jam. So I hold spaces. So I book a venue, and yeah, we
Wow.
do a gig.
That's
And
incredible. Wow.
and she did all that through learning EFT. So it was, really about, so my modality is EFT. I help my clients name the fear. That's really important to start, talking about, okay, well, what is it? And then get to the origin of it. So where does that come from in terms of events in life? And what's amazing about the brain is if you are in a more expansive state, so you've done some nervous system resets, if you close your eyes and you ask yourself, okay, great, filing cabinet in my mind, show me, where was the first time that I heard this? And it's amazing. It's always the first image or memory that comes into your mind. You trust that. You go, oh, it was the time when such and such said this to me, or I was made to feel embarrassed because of this, or feelings around shame because of this story. So there's always an origin, and we get to that origin story. And then you can do some work around forgiving as well. So forgiving the parties, and then forgiving yourself. And then we get to work with tapping. So releasing those narratives from the body, from the subconscious mind. And we're actually really just rewiring then. So reframing. Normally it can get just cleared like that. And then we, in that more expansive state after you've cleared it, then you can make different suggestions, moving forward. And that's how it works, basically. It's amazing. I also do a lot of singing affirmation work as well, because,
Love.
that's the basis of your coaching and your
Yeah.
writing and everything that you do with your teach. So,
Yeah.
so we do a lot of mantra singing as well. Again, it's all about repetition,
Yes.
repetition. The body and the brain love repetition. So finding interesting ways to do that, whether it's through singing or through your artwork, or is perfect. Or, if you like to write, if you're a tactile person, just do your lines.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's basically it. I always recommend doing morning pages as well. I think it's always really powerful. It's a powerful
Yes.
it's a powerful addition to that work. And then, of course, just journaling. And journaling doesn't have to look like, this is where I was always stuck. I thought journaling had to be this, and I'm not much of a hand writer. But I love to I journal out loud through my tapping, or I journal out loud to my best friend.
Yes. Yeah. Voice notes are great.
Voice notes. Yeah, exactly.
Totally. And it's so helpful to externalize that somehow. It's so important. I think so many of us, we have all these internal things going on, under the surface, and we just kind of wait for life to draw it out of us, and we don't give ourselves the time, and we don't put that intention. We don't, yeah, again, with intention, we don't put that time towards really letting ourselves kind of vent or air out
Yeah.
kind of what we need to. And so it kind of starts growing mold in there.
Well, that's absolutely it. And I mean, we do that to function. You know, I always
Right.
say to
Yeah.
people, like, we get really good at it because to navigate this world that we're in, it is about functioning, you know. So to get by, we've got things that we have to do in order to survive and to thrive and all the rest of it. And so we go through the motions. We get very good at just, you know, repressing, and then, like you said, it grows mold, and then it waits for one of those explosive, you know,
Yeah.
cortisol-induced moments for it to be like, ah, and everyone's like,
Exactly.
whoa, I thought you were sweet and cute. What happened?
Burn the shit to the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, okay, oh, now it's time to be curious about my people pleasing and,
Right.
you know, my lack of boundaries. I
Right.
could have just, you know. But the thing is, the other thing I also teach is encourage my students to be detectives. So, like, to actually keep notes on your phone, because sometimes, like, little triggers come up during the day, like someone says something a bit interesting that you receive it in a way that feels yucky in your body, or something happens and you feel yucky in your body, but then because we're good at functioning, we repress it and then we move on. So in those moments, write it down and keep a list, so you can go back to it, and then, like, later at night when you know, feeling you've got the time and space to reflect on it, then you can do your tapping. So things aren't going unnoticed. It's just a way of just keeping a track of all those little triggers.
Wow. Well, we're getting a free coaching session right here, guys. So that was amazing. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that right now.
Good. I literally have a whole note thing of things that I have to tap on.
I mean,
You know,
that's
and you can have a little checklist. You can, on your notes, you can have the little, you know, the little thing where you press it and you go tick. Okay, I've ticked that off.
Yes, and it's so important because like you said, we're so good at repressing, and so just getting into the opposite habit of some of us get stuck in the very opposite habit of paying so much attention to the things that are uncomfortable for us, or when we're just starting to become aware of, you know, the things that are unfair in our lives, that we're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to take this. And then we get stuck in this kind of reaction to that. But this is giving the power back to you, and so that you can actually do something about it. It's not just you're aware of the problem, you're paying attention to the problem, which is important, and like giving the problem reverence. But so many people, I think, get stuck there. So this is really like, okay, now we are going to work with this in a way where we can actually feel the photo negative, because there's a positive desire that's behind this negative feeling. So like, that's really beautiful. So let's experience more of that instead of the
Well, and that's it, because the reality is, we you know, what we want is, we want to be happy. You know, that's the desire. Like, we want to be full-time musicians and creatives, and there are certain desires that we have, and I always just think these little tiny things are just those little pebbles that are blocking the flow. And so it's just about removing them, because the thing is, we can dwell on the fact that, oh, you know, such and such was an asshole. You know, I lived in a violent, turbulent home, or whatever it is. It, like, this is not to not validate people's experience in that, because, you know, majority of adults have been traumatized on some level,
right.
You know, you know, like, all of us share pain stories, because part of this experience of being human is that it's about polarity. It's, of course, you know, we've all got a story, and it's something that it makes us, honestly, like, if we start to leverage the strengths of our story, like of the trauma, we start to transmute the trauma, we become more of ourselves, and we're more of service, you know, to humanity. The more we can transmute trauma into, like, this is, and leverage it to our strengths. And I feel like so I was, I was bullied as a kid, and I don't know why I laugh, because it's just that I was just just this fat, cute little kid, shiny little kid, and so obviously I was just this easy target, this puffy little white thing with this long black hair, and I got bullied not by kids. What was more painful is I got bullied by a lot of adults, and so that's my story. However, like now I'm one of the most compassionate humans, where I actually have to kind of keep check on that as well, because your heart bleeds for everyone and
Right.
everything and all the rest of it, so you've got to, there's also that element of preservation. But part of that experience and story for me is that no one will ever go unnoticed. When I was a school teacher, I'm like, no one is falling through the cracks. I see you. Like it was really quite, maybe a little bit too extreme. Like I knew
Overcorrecting.
everything about every kid, and like I wanted them to know that that was special. God damn it! So that's the kind of what happens. But I could keep dwelling in that space and not get my desires. Do you know what I mean? But if I just transmute it into something that's empowering and makes me more of me, and then I'm way more expansive and open, and I'm getting to do all the beautiful things that I love in life, well then it's a way better experience. Of course, I'm not levitating, and I've like I also, like, every moment of the day I'm always offered polarity, and that's like every human being here, of course, but you just get way better at just navigating it. It's always, I always think I'm like that ninja that's like dodging things, like, and
Yes.
that kind of
Ninja.
thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. I call myself, and well, I just spent, we were just talking about, I just spent like 3 weeks with my mom. I love my mom so much. We're close, but yeah, also very triggering and shadow externalized in a way. So yeah, it's like, but then in those moments, well, like Ram Dass says, do you think you're enlightened? Like go spend a week with your family. So this was actually like, actually, I'm spiraling up. I've up leveled anyway. Yeah, the like emotional ninja, you have to be able to like take these, okay, this feels terrible, and then like use that as a moment of reflection. Like almost what you're talking about almost is like using your life as a meditation.
Yeah, essentially. That's like, I love that Abraham Hicks, you're in the river and you just drop the oars and you just kind of let life flow through you, and you and
Downstream.
yeah, and it's like, and it downstream, that's right. And look, and resistance isn't, and this is the other thing, is reframing resistance. It's not like we've got to get out of that good bad positive negative. It's like resistance is just resistance. It comes up, and then it's a really great opportunity to get to know yourself even better, and then you're curious of it, you release it, and then you're more of yourself again. Like it's amazing. It's a really hang on, I've just got to tell talking about family member. My brother
Oh no.
lives literally 2 doors down and is currently sitting in my lounge room talking very loudly. Hang
Oh
on.
no, I thought that was mine. That was or not my brother, but we are doing a professional international podcasting experience. No.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, that's my family. Yeah.
So cute. That's so nice that you have your family there too. I love
Oh,
that. Like, can you
yeah.
say
It's
some about the Greek thing? And because you're getting more into the Greek music too. And I know, yeah.
yes, yeah. So I'm a quarter Greek. My last name is Lathouras. And
Yes.
my family are from, we're the Asia Minor Greeks, so we were in Smyrna, and but actually, before the catastrophe, my great grandfather and his 3 other brothers came over to Australia to start cafes and a new
Wow.
life. And yeah, it was actually really they kind of, yeah, they bypassed a lot of the trauma. But
That's great
their
timing.
yeah, their wives weren't so lucky, so they all came later.
Mm.
Yeah. But the house that I live in, so it's actually 2 levels. It's actually like 2 self-contained areas. Was owned by my great auntie. What was her name? I think her name was Orania. And she actually she lost her first husband in the First World War, and then lived in a monastery for many years. And she was a seamstress. That's where she learned how to be a seamstress. And sorry, that's very old, antiquated language. She was a
I
clothes
don't,
maker.
I
Is there
don't,
another word?
sure.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, back
She was
then
a
she was a
fashion.
seamstress. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, this place belonged to her. So she built this for her and her 2 sons, and so she lived upstairs with my cousin Tony, and my cousin Mickey would live downstairs in between marriages, and yeah, but they've all passed on, and it's just funny that I've lived upstairs, and now my brother for a long time lived downstairs, but now he's moved out. He's a couple of doors down in a unit. So yeah, I do. I see him pretty much every single day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but and it's lovely because that's how I was brought up. Basically, I lived a couple of doors down from my grandfather, and my nana in Bundaberg, and so it was very much about like we're all in each other's pockets.
yes, I think
Yeah.
that's how life is. That's how it's supposed to be. That's exactly how it's supposed to
and
be.
it's beautiful. I just wish I'd love for my mum to live in Brisbane, but she's in Bundaberg, and my dad's in Bundaberg. They're not together, but yeah. So all my family is still in Bundaberg, but it's just my brother and I here in Brisbane in the Big Smoke. Yeah, the Big Smoke.
The Big Smoke. I never heard that. I love that.
Yeah, and I think no, Big Smoke. No, it's not Australian. I was going to say it's an Australian term, but I don't think so.
Oh,
You hear it a lot, oh, you city slickers.
but
You
did
think
you?
you're so good in the Big
Yes,
Smoke.
I love that. Did you grow up? What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Well, I grew up listening to most of what my dad would play. So it was Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, James Taylor,
Yes.
and
Okay, so great,
yeah,
like American, basically.
Yeah, and also Greek music. So 80s Greek bouzouki,
Yes, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did grow up with Greek music. However, I was more obsessed with jazz. So Dad bought me a Nina Simone cassette tape, and that was pretty much the end of me for it was just all about jazz after that. Although I did grow up, I learned classical singing as a kid. So I did actually also, I was obsessed with Maria Callas, and I wanted to be Maria Callas for a very long time until I realized I even tried to sound like Maria Callas as a 17-year-old. I'd put on that 55-year-old warbly, dark, resonant, tongue-rooty sound, and and then I went back to jazz again. But yeah, so just recently, it's funny. I've always had an interesting relationship with Greek people. In mostly my early 20s, to my 30s. And I just never felt fully connected. Even though my cousin Goldie, she's elderly, so she's in her early 80s, and she's essentially, even though she's a cousin, her family brought up my grandfather and his brothers because they lost their parents when they were really young. So she's kind of more like an auntie figure. So she's always tried to get us more excited about Greek culture and connect us. And she's full Greek and fully in the Greek community here in Brisbane. And I just never really felt part of it. I think just being so Australian, and and it wasn't until it was so beautiful, actually. There's an organisation called a HEPA here, so the Australian Hellenic Education Progressive something association. Yeah. It was so funny. They're so cute. They're mostly elderly Greek people, and my cousin Goldie was like, and it's like the way they talk when it's very important, to make sure that you know how important it is. They talk in a really formal voice and like in their email. So, Melissa, this is my cousin calling, Melissa, the HEPA, they just want to inform you that they would like to honour you and your contribution to music at Panayiri, which is this Greek festival here in Brisbane. And I was like, oh, that's nice, Goldie. Like, how are they honouring me? Like, thinking hopefully it involves free food. And
Yeah.
please be food. Anyway, so finally the day came where they were honouring me. I wasn't sure what that meant. So I went across to the Greek club. So I live across the road from the Greek Orthodox. This is probably telling people where I am.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry.
Be careful about
Oh,
the other one.
Yeah. As long as you come here with free food, I'm fine.
Exactly.
So I live opposite the Greek Orthodox Church and the Greek club here in Brisbane. And so I went across. I thought, oh, I'll just go and see how they're honouring me. And there was this big, beautiful picture of me on this board which said, well-known Greek singers. And they'd planted me in between Nana Mouskouri and Maria Callas. I was like, what?
Oh
That
my!
is actually an honor. Thank you. Oh my God. I was like, oh, okay.
I didn't expect to really be honored.
Yeah, like it was just
Oh
really
my
lovely.
God.
And what actually happened was really incredible. It's so serendipitous because I didn't know that there was going to be this concert that was happening. And I stayed. I was like, oh my God, there's a concert happening. And this beautiful singer sang this amazing old Greek, folk song, Katerini Menelatos. And I was like, oh, Vula. So beautiful Vula Custon, who's she was the head of the HEPA at the time. I was like, can you introduce me to that lady? She's amazing. She gave me goosebumps. And now Katerini has become one of my dearest friends. And we've just launched our production company called Girl from Greece. And we just pitched a big show idea. I can talk about it. We pitched it to QPAC, which is this huge, it is the performing arts centre here in Queensland. We pitched this show about Nana Mouskouri. So our show's called Nana Mouskouri and Me, Stories of Belonging. So it is kind of a tribute, but we're talking, about our stories with our family's diaspora and connecting it back to Nana as, she was an influence of ours. So it's like connecting our stories all together. So QPAC have picked it up. We're just waiting to see if we've got funding from Arts Queensland. It's a huge, it's $150,000 show. So we went for funding with QPAC, with Arts Queensland. So we're just waiting. We hear back in May. And then QPAC are giving us money and, Creative Development Week. And yeah, it's amazing. It's so funny. We just launched this Facebook group, and our performing name is going to be Girl from Greece as well. So if we do gigs outside of this show, but yeah, we've landed with the biggest gig of the century for us. Anyway, it's next level for me, So I've performed, I do lots of gigs everywhere. I've done festivals, but this is like, it is kind of like Queensland's, what's the Met, it's like Queensland's version of that.
That's insane. That is a huge deal. I want to pop champagne right now.
Thank you. It's really big. It also really does depend on us getting this grant. But
you're getting it. You're getting it somehow.
I went to a psychic only a couple of weeks ago who said, yeah, you're getting it.
You're getting it. I mean, write a song about getting it. You got it. I mean,
I know, exactly. Yeah.
That's
why I feel like it's easy to talk about, because it's like, it's happening. It's happened.
Yes.
That's how I feel. And it's funny because even though it's a big deal and I'm really honored and it's, it's going to be a passion project, I'm also really detached from it as well.
Yeah.
Detached from the outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know what you
heart
mean.
connected to the project, detached from. Because my whole philosophy is this or bigger, this or bigger. And I've used that. I've been offered some pretty big things just even in the last few weeks. award ceremonies and stuff like that. And it didn't turn out. And I just don't have that massive disappointment, soul crushing disappointment, because I've got that mantra, this or bigger. And it always works out. And you always get to where you want to go. Whatever it is that you want, you'll always get there. It doesn't, you know, you might get a few no's along the way, but that's just part of the journey, but you're going to get the thing that you want.
And that is the perfect ending point. I think that landed so perfectly for me. Wow. I hope that whoever's listening, that landed in the exact same way, because that just was so reassuring and such an important reminder. Man, there's so much I'm going to take with me from this conversation. It's just insane.
Mate.
But thank you so much for saying that, and for sharing your story with us, and for sharing all of the lessons that you learned through your life and through living your life in this fearless way. But it's not fearless. It's like fear embracing in a way. It's like fear alchemy. It's like,
it's fear alchemy. That's probably a better way of describing it. It's fear. That's it. It's like reframing fear. Fear's not bad. Fear stops us from like getting run over by a car. It's, you know, it helps us get closer to that. Well, it helps us with self-inquiry. It helps us investigate, get closer to those little pebbles so we can remove them, or boulders, however you want to see them. I'd prefer to see them as pebbles.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Make molehills out of mountains. Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
love
So
that.
yeah, no, fear is a good thing. And yeah, and I just want to quickly end on this.
Yes.
Is that part of being human is having experiences that don't feel like joy all the time. Like, it's very human to have anxiety. It's very human to have fear. It's very human, and it's really about embracing that and knowing that you will still get what you want. You could be the biggest scaredy cat in the entire world, but if you believe it, you will still get whatever it is that you want and desire. So you can have all those feelings. Don't feel like in order to be where you want to be in terms of your goals, that you have to always be thinking positively. Like, honestly, you'll give yourself a hernia. Just don't do it. Just embrace being human and know that.
Embrace it. Yes.
Yes.
And where can I send people to get, if I'm sure there's so many people right now who are like, I want her specific help. Where do they find you?
So for the coaching, it's fearlesssinger.com. So 3 S's, fearlesssinger.com. And I've got a whole heap of free products on my website. So even just on the front page, you can get this like a daily exercise that you can do every single day, because even though, yeah, sure, I'm more of a coach for singers, it's still important that we keep our instrument in shape and we know our instrument. So yeah, that also helps solidify that identity of, I am a singer, because I work on my voice every day. So there is a free daily exercise, so 5 exercises that you can do.
Yes, and I've gotten that, and I can attest it's so good. Like, download it right now if you are at all interested in singing. It's just like bite size. I'm gonna get back into it too. I forgot about that, because it's just so important to engage with your voice every day on purpose. It's really powerful. Yeah.
And then you can also save it as like an app on your phone. You know how you can save things to your home screen? So it's like a little app that you can and then you've got it. And the other thing is, I've got a free mini course on tapping. So emotional freedom technique. Yeah, it's called Fear.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, I need to change the name of that product, because I just said, fear's not bad. Fear is good. And then my product's called Fear.
That's great.
I mean, that's part of my journey. That's where I've come. Yeah.
Yes.
So I did that. I made
fear.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So I made that last year. But yeah, so there's 2 things that people can download and get into straight away.
Okay, I'm putting the links also to those directly in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that is so great. It's free. I mean, come on. That's a free course. And I know it's valuable. Like, people might hear free, but it's It's
No,
it's
that's
like
it.
if somebody handed you a free, really good piece of food, Greek food at a festival, you would not be like, oh, it's free, no thank you. You'd be like, this is incredible homemade food. Thank you.
Yeah, but also too, like it is a bit of a time investment, but so you are giving your time to it. So
Right.
that's yeah.
But it's also
And
like just
but
a good intro to your work in general in this like way of speaking.
absolutely.
So it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
love
And I've
that.
got also I'm putting a lot of stuff up now on YouTube. So which is just at Fearless Singer. So there's a lot of videos, a lot of content up there, and also I do post a lot on Instagram. So I'm at Mel Lathouras on Instagram, and yeah, and people can work with me one-on-one over Zoom as well.
Yay! Oh,
Yeah.
Mel, thank you so much. I'm
Oh,
so glad to
no
finally
worries.
have you
Bless you.
on.
Thank you.
Oh
Thanks for
my
having me.
gosh.
This has been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, and we'll have to do it again soon.
Oh,
I have a feeling.
please.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thanks. Bye.